That's also one of the things that EDA and USDA spend a lot of time on. There are all kinds of resources through USDA and EDA for water and sewer system infrastructure in small towns across the country. It's one of their major focus points.
Right.
And SeVEDS is one of the things you need to have to get there. Yes.
Actually, I was going to say, based on what Wayne said earlier and what Pat's saying now, the state just several years ago did a small plan actually for a small town, village septic systems,
Right.
community systems. And that's somewhere, and Wayne said that they made some nice plans that kind of disappeared after.
Where does the water come from here? For
Wells.
water, basically?
Private
Wells.
Wells,
There's
yes.
no public water system.
No public water?
No.
Okay.
We had a chance in Weston about 5 years ago or so, maybe more, to acquire a significant piece of land that would have been the basis for a water supply. And got shot down in town meeting. Just people showed up who never saw before at town meeting. Vote no.
Okay. I've seen that happen before. Yes. Okay, lack of public infrastructure, yes.
To piggyback on what Wayne said, I think in addition to sort of lack of local leadership, the lack of, and obviously the economic plan would help to do that, but bringing people together. You know, we have, you know, many small towns, particularly at this end of Wyndham County, that all operate sort of independently, and there is nothing outside of this process to try to bring everybody together to sort of solve common problems.
Okay.
So I think in addition to using this vehicle, another vehicle of trying to bring back, you know, the planning in maybe a mini regional standpoint,
Right.
because certainly some of our opportunities and challenges are different than the other end of Wyndham County, and so having a full regional outlook is great and brings a lot to the table, but having smaller based regional processes, so to
Okay.
speak, would be.
That's a good idea.
I think it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity at the same time.
When you do that, you have to get outside Wyndham County, because Manchester is a center for Londonderry, Weston,
Okay.
et cetera.
Manchester is in which county?
Bennington.
Bennington, okay.
And we're right at the four corners.
Okay.
Bennington.
Okay.
I was going to agree 100% on it. We have to step outside of the boundaries into Windsor and
Into Windsor and
All
Bennington.
four, yep.
Okay.
I can also say that I know for a fact that Manchester is really interested in collaborating with other towns and developing a vision. They just had the rural, what is that?
Non-council
Thank you.
community visit process.
Right, they did. They just had that, and they had over 300 people at the first
Wow.
meeting. So there's a lot of energy there that I think really could be tapped into.
Well, Pat, that might be an opportunity for the SeVEDS process to look at. Because often with these processes, you extend your boundaries beyond just the normal geographic boundary. Try to take an order here. Okay.
There's no, this is sort of repeating some of the things that have been said, but there's sort of no history of collaboration. I mean,
No history of collaboration.
each town does everything on its
Right.
own. I mean, at one point, there was a notion that Weston should perhaps share its salt and sand with Andover, which is,
Oh my God.
3 miles away, and it was just, that would be the most ridiculous thing.
Must be communists running around talking about that, right?
So there's no sort of basis for any kind of collaboration.
Right.
So there's not a history of it.
Right. Well, there are mechanisms that we have what's called a value linkage exercise that we actually take communities through that have this problem. And if you start with a project that you find through this research process that 4 different towns are interested in, but they've been looking at it separately, and you bring them together, and you can show them economies of scale and things like that, oftentimes they will figure out on one project how to begin working together by using this value linkage exercise. And so there are mechanisms to use for this. This is not, just thank your lucky stars you don't live in Illinois. And the reason I say that is if you think you got problems with lack of collaboration, we're in a state, working in a state that has 8,670 taxing jurisdictions. In a county of 20 counties, they had 247 separate municipalities and 668 separate taxing jurisdictions. Okay, the library had a taxing district. The ambulances had a taxing district. The police had a taxing district. There are separate road districts. So when you got your property tax bill, there are 22 different taxing jurisdictions.
Wow, we think it's bad here.
Okay, so, you know, it could be worse. Okay, so yes, I think this gentleman, who had their hand?
I came in.
Okay.
I was just going to say, it's interesting, I'm interested to see what you're going to follow up the next part of the program with, but I think quality of life has a lot to do with it. I don't know whether it gets in the way, but I think it creates economic development, or some of that creates a certain fear of what it represents to some people. And I think if you can get over that fear factor, meaning that you can have economic growth with appropriate types of industries for what type of quality of life you want,
Right.
that's one of the biggest hurdles you can surmount. I think you know, people like the idea of not waiting in traffic for an hour
Right.
in order to get to a job.
Right.
And that's a lot of why people are here. A lot of people buy second homes, a lot for that same purpose, the beauty and that sort of thing. But what sorts of industry, what sorts of jobs, what sorts of infrastructure is needed to provide economic prosperity without destroying
Right.
most of that quality of life? There's a balance.
So we had a meeting today, another meeting today with the professional, scientific, technical, and creative economy people. And all of them were talking about telework, earning money with Boston companies working from here. Okay, now, they were also talking about communities that did not have access to broadband. And really high speed with this man.
And we don't have cell phone service in Weston.
Yes, I noticed that on Route 9 and Route 30 and 100, all the way up, I'm looking at my phone and there are no bars. Okay.
Little spot in Jamaica.
That's
about it.
So, then we're going to get to quality place in just a minute. Okay, and talk about that because it is a critical piece. I want to ask you,
And one more question.
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Now, you've noted, and the statistics indicate that we do have in Windham County, and I suspect this direct area would perhaps outmeasure the rest of the county in that regard. There's a lot of unearned income. And the unearned income tends to rest with people that are in the older category.
right,
And I think that it would be wise for us to think in terms of more than just mowing lawns for, that kind of service for those people. I suspect that as time goes on, there are other services that could be provided that might involve people that are actually earning income.
a lot of personal finance, financial advisory services, a lot of tax preparation services, a lot of healthcare services, therapy services. There are all kinds of, and matter of fact, the state of Arizona is the only state in the country that has developed a senior living strategy. And Florida, what do they call it today? God's waiting room. God's waiting room. Florida's actually having trouble right now retaining some of its elderly citizens because of the lack of systems and services set in place for them. And so they're moving back home to be near their family so they can be taken care of. And I can tell you any number of people in Baltimore where I'm from that went to Florida and are coming back now, whereas the people who went to Arizona, that's not happening.
I promised Wilbur Rice, who is the owner of the Keep Sports in Londonderry and Stratton in Westover. He's actually in Russell, but he couldn't be here tonight, but he asked me if I would read his comments that I
Yes.
had given if he's
And if you can give that to Pat, who actually
I
recorded.
will do. It's very short. but it goes along the lines of the previous question, the impediments.
Right.
I submit the following comments for tonight's session, says Wilbur. Anyone's dog in Vermont can get unemployment for whatever reason. Even if a keep is the 7th previous employer, and that employment lasted for a very short time, that person can get unemployment compensation no matter what the details of that departure or how long ago, and I will be charged. And the requirement that they are looking for work is a joke. The rules are not enforced. The upcoming change in sales tax on clothing is very disappointing. Now all clothing will be taxed, and the taxes in the state are too high, and they're scaring away customers and potential businesses. And lastly, the new tax increase on fuel is going to generate approximately $20 million. The equivalent amount should be invested in advertising Vermont. One of the problems we have in business is there's no one here. The days of bountiful summers are gone, the jam-packed foliage weekends are gone, and the ski business is on life support. In 1970, Vermont had the same amount of skier days as Colorado. Now Colorado has 3 times as many. The governor should appoint a commission on selling and advertising Vermont and invest $20 million, which is the only place he will get an ROI in all his state spending.
Okay.
Concise.
Okay, very precise. Okay, good. Okay, now my next question for you is, what are the opportunities that you see? They're challenges, but there are also opportunities. What are the opportunities that can be leveraged, that aren't being leveraged? What do you think are assets that can be built off of here to grow this economy, to make it more viable than it is today?
Wood.
Pardon?
Wood.
Wood, okay. Got it. Value added though,
Yes.
not just commodity. What else? Yes, Larry.
I think recreation is a good one. We've got some. We could probably enhance that even more, I think.
Year-round experiences.
Year-round, yes.
And one of the other things I think that happens often in communities in tourism, there are a lot of individual, I note that when I try to look at places here, I end up going to a lot of separate places, okay? And people visit a region for an experience. And you will stay longer if you can aggregate those experiences. And the easier you make it. This one lady 14 years ago said to me at a community we were working in, she talked about agritourism. And she said, you don't go to Disney for a ride, you go to Disney for an experience. And if I can spend 2 days skiing at Stratton and stay there and then go visit, do some agritourism experiences and go to a winery and do all this other stuff, and I can spend 5 days having a good time and and look at all the unique local foods restaurants that I can find and discover and go canoeing somewhere else or fly fishing or whatever. Though, I can build those experiences around a broader trip. And so what we're always looking for is who's doing a really good job at that and trying to build off those experiences. Like, is there a bed and breakfast network here? Is there a network of bed and breakfast that if you call one, you can actually book bed and breakfast online, any place in the region?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I think your point about it, to pick up Larry, is connecting the dots. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but we have a lot of the resources, activities, and things that would be on a list of any place to go visit. To your point, to extend that stay, the problem is finding those is virtually impossible. If you don't know where to go to find certain activities and connecting also recreation with the agritourism. There's the idea of the working farms and biking through the farms. I mean, those things sort of exist, but you got to be pretty savvy to go find out about it right now, or find somebody that does. So I think that is one of our greatest opportunities.
Those are assets that already exist.
Yeah, particularly leveraging with Manchester. If you put in the cultural, the agritourism, the outdoor recreation, there's my little soapbox, but you put us up against some of the best places in the country, and we have most of the attributes, if not all of them. But I challenge anybody to really sort of find that out right now, because we kind of keep it a secret. And so I think one of our biggest opportunities is to try to connect all these dots and make that a region-wide, multi-county, initiative to really drive that,
Well,
those segments of our business.
here's the opportunity. We're gonna have a plan that we put together, and in phase 2 of the plan, we go into extensive asset mapping, and tourism should be a cluster. Okay? And what you do with asset mapping, you actually identify all these, you link them to GIS mapping resources, and you start to build, there's actually I hope it's still around, there's actually we did a project in deep southern Illinois that has 20 counties and very poor. And we actually funded a guy to develop what was called, it's called Experience Southern Illinois. And it's been launched into a business that can go to any community now. It's a portal where and basically all the providers that go on the site.
What's it called again?
Pardon?
What was it called again?
It's called Experience Southern Illinois. I think it's called Experience Southern Illinois. And the guy that runs this actually packages up all these experiences. And he's built it in a platform that can be ported out to other places. And so if you want a romantic weekend, and that romantic weekend includes hiking, and you want to go to a winery or whatever, you can book all that right there, and they actually put packages together like that. But you also can go on and he's got a ton of different stuff, and the whole website is built as an integrated portal, so you can book your car, you can book your kayak, you can book, you can do everything right on that site. And if 60% of all, I think this is the number, you all in tourism will know better than I do, I think 60% of all tourism, all vacation trips in families are booked by the woman in the family.
Actually, it's higher than that.
Okay, and they are booking online big time.
Absolutely.
Okay, and they are very frustrated. They don't have a lot of time. Okay, and they want to be able to get all those experiences. So the region that figures this out is going to be the one that wins. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, there's an app actually called Park Ranger.
Park Ranger.
We drove across the US last year, and it's on your cell phone, and if you have your cell phone on, every time you come near a park, it'll pop up.
Really?
Yeah. If it's entered into the system, so,
Is that the name of it, Park Ranger?
I believe it's Park Ranger, yeah.
Well, I'll try that right now.
But do you have? Oh, gee, I forgot.
But it's interesting because, based on what you're saying, if you're driving around the region, all those recreational opportunities, or any opportunity could be,
Right.
found.
So for those of you interested in that, SeVEDS is going to need a team of people in the tourism industry who want to look at, help them get all these assets mapped. And if we're around for phase 2, we actually have a GIS mapping system that's linked, that when you enter in the site, it goes right into a map. And it also has all the demographics and everything centered around it, and all the businesses that are located in that region, so you can actually begin to see what that looks like, and then start to build those experiences out.
We've actually got the database for that probably 70% done.
Oh,
So if we
really?
can do Jenna link it with the mapping system,
Yeah.
we'll be well on our way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Statewide, we're actually in pretty good shape from a GIS mapping standpoint.
Yeah, we don't have the GIS mapping, but we have the database of all the stuff within, 20-mile radius. That's it.
well, if we can really, if it's an Excel format or any kind of format that can be ported into CSV files or Excel files, can be ported right into a GIS mapping system.
I'm not smart enough to know all that, but I'm sure our guys at
Yeah, I'm sure you have
IT
guys that
and
can
Dora
do
will
that.
know the answer to that
Okay,
question.
well, this is a good start. This is a good start. We got wood, we got tourism, we've got the Manchester, linking that stuff together. Yes, ma'am, I want to make sure we're going to finish on time, so go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll just say quickly, we have a farmer's market that has been located in our town, Londonderry, for 21 years.
Really?
And has grown to have at least 40 vendors for probably at least the last 8 years.
And how long a season does it run?
It runs from Memorial Day to Columbus Day.
World Day to Columbus Day, and is it all week long, or is it on a
1
Saturday?
day a week,
1 day a week,
4
okay.
hours.
Okay.
But what's come out of it is a lot of the radius of people that participate, growers, vendors, is 100 miles.
Right.
So we have a lot of small producers producing really excellent quality
Wow.
food for the food supply, but
Okay.
also small processing going on
Ah.
in sort of very separate camps.
Sharon's right, that is a terrific opportunity. There's a whole bunch of CSA opportunities around community supported agricultural
Okay.
farms. They don't have, the marketing and distribution of those really fresh,
Right.
exciting organic products is underutilized.
Under the radar screen.
Under the screen.
Okay. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Get that
So-
stuff to
That market on the busiest weekends brings 1,000 people.
I mean, I'm sure you're already aware of like the strong day heifers and how that just as an event in southern Vermont putting money into the pool that brings in a lot of people
That's right.
for celebrating that kind of thing.
And just imagine doing a meetup. Okay? So why, you guys could organize a meetup around one of those events, and you'd be amazed at how many people his age are gonna show up.
Mm.
I mean, has anybody even thought about that, doing meetups?
What is it?
A meetup it's an app, basically, it's using social media. And you announce that we're gonna have a meetup at a certain place, there's this going on, and we actually do them in Baltimore at museums now. We actually bring a whole bunch of tech people together in a museum for 72 hours on a weekend. They let them sleep there, and they invent all kinds of applications around that. You could have a meetup around a farmer's market with all kinds of people that are interested in developing apps, and the goal at the end of the meetup is, hey, can we take some of these processed foods and figure out a way to market them more globally or whatever. I mean, there's really interesting things that you can do with these areas where you already have people assembling.
We've done,
I see this crazy look on you're gonna go crazy now,
no,
Pat.
there is, because we have had that app jam, and I'm kind
Yeah.
of, what the heck is the name of it? I can't, but it's.
Friendly gathering.
No, there's a,
Front door? No.
no, not front door forum, it's
It's-
exactly.
This is charades, this is,
72 hours, and you jam up and you make apps. And
Yeah.
The outcome is apps. And we
Right.
just had one of those in Vermont, what the heck was the name of it? Anyway, it'll come to me.
anyhow, there are these kinds of fun things that you can do. You could even, you could use a ski resort for that kind of stuff, where you're having, areas of the season that are low, and have, do something really interesting where, especially if we know where the people are employed, what kind of businesses they're in, or what kind of jobs they hold, you can have all kinds of meetups around those featured interests. And people will come for a whole weekend and stay at the resort.
There's a huge yoga event at Stratford. What did you, June, Scott?
June, yeah, the week in June.
So,
There's two quick, just to throw them out there, there's other, holistic health or alternative medicine is pretty big in this region, I know. And the other one is microbreweries. I forget which one just won like 7 awards, including the best beer in the world. It was like an international
Really?
contest.
Farmstead.
Hill Farmstead just won, like they just swept, like
That's
an
from this area,
international
that's from
beer
this area.
competition for their brews.
okay, okay.
We had 3 cheese makers between Londonderry and Weston, at least 3 I can think of,
Okay,
between the 2 towns.
Farmstead.
Yeah.
so that's, okay, we did something in Washington State where we created the Olympic Peninsula. They thought they were nothing to anybody, and we suddenly got them to understand that there was only one Olympic peninsula in the world. Okay, and we created this whole theme around Olympic cuisine. Okay, it now attracts 40,000 people on a weekend. And all the restaurants come together and use all locally grown products, fresh caught salmon, organically raised steers, and all kinds of different stuff, and and they sell a lot of stuff on the web now, and processed foods around that. So you can do all kinds of things like that to create experience weekends around what is the natural economy you already have. So these are great examples of opportunities. You all get the A prize because you put more opportunities on the table than any other region we've talked to in 2 days.
And I just wanted, because I know Pat's taking notes, so I just wanted to get for Weston, they're really sort of assets opposed to maybe opportunities, but they could be turned into opportunities. Everybody does know about the Vermont Country Store, which is a big asset
Yes,
for our
love it. My wife has been buying there for
town.
years.
And we have three sort of very interesting cultural assets in Weston. One is the Weston Playhouse, which is a regional theater that produces Broadway class.
The Weston Priory.
And we have the Weston Priory, which believe it or not brings huge
Well,
numbers
my
of
wife and I
people.
intend to go to celebrate our 45th wedding anniversary dance at the Weston Priory
So,
in June.
And you could stay at the Weston Inn
The
right
West-
down the street.
Oh, that's right.
That's the
so
other thing.
it is amazing, and actually we're a small town, but actually a fair number of people actually retire to Weston
Mhm.
because of the Weston Priory.
Mm.
And we also have Kinhaven Music School that brings people
The
from
Who Music School?
Kinhaven, it's a summer
Kinhaven,
music
okay.
school, sort of, a la,
Okay.
yeah. So we have,
Okay, great. Great, yes, sir.
We also have a national forest.
yes.
You have a national forest.
And well, not in Weston, but the Long Trail and the Appalachian Trail.
Mhm.
And the rail trail.
The national forest is pretty much accessible, I guess not in Londonderry.
There is some in,
Is there? I wanted to drive very far.
Actually, 50% of Weston's land mass is national forest.
Is are the people that are in charge of the national forest actually here in Vermont?
Yes.
Yes.
Are they active in the community?
Somewhat, but not.
Okay, we've been doing a lot of work with the Department of Forestry. They're really pushing for the forest to be a more active tourism asset in a community. And they're encouraging the heads of those entities around the country to become more engaged in the economic development aspects of their community. So I don't know whether, have you all at Stratton, you have relationships with the head of the people that run the National Forest here at all?
We border them, so we're friendly, but we don't
Okay.
collaborate all that much, to be honest with you, right now. But it's an opportunity for sure.
There is a local group called
Huh?
the Mountain Valley Trails Association,
Mountain Valley Trail Association? Okay.
which does actually clearing in national forests.
Okay, so they would have, that'd be a good entree.
And they do have a relationship.
Okay, let me just quickly go through this. Starting in 2010, we were actually contracted by Fairpoint. We were a contributed resource to the Baltimore, it's the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, who we actually worked with them, and Fairpoint paid for our services to help SeVEDS develop their original strategy. And so the opportunities that were identified are in this column over here and in challenges over here. You already talked about opportunities, and no, I always laugh about this one because this one, number 3, was imminent technology infrastructure. In some places, it's still imminent. So, and this has to do with broadband and wireless services, cell services, that kind of stuff.
Can I make a comment? Because this goes back to what I think Sky said about, I think it is interesting because when I look at those opportunities, I do realize that they are, they run from Brattleboro up, but if you would begin to do like mini area or mini region stuff, some of those things actually don't apply to this area.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's why some of the challenges you all mentioned, help us. That's one of the reasons we're having these meetings in 4 different regions of Wyndham County. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the things that we do is we look at what are the key opportunities that can be leveraged, what are the challenges that need to be overcome. And that helps to define and set priorities, because what you want to do is make sure that the strategy direction you go in does not have challenges in the way that will take years to overcome. You want to make sure you start in a place where you can actually achieve traction and move things forward, and then work on the longer term challenges, but also leverage the opportunities. And it's very interesting, in all the meetings we've had, the Vermont brand has come up a number of times, and not just related to food. Even in manufacturing, the Vermont brand has come up. And I'm talking high-tech manufacturing, which I had not expected to see. And they were told they couldn't use the Vermont brand by the state authorities.
That was seal of quality and
Right.
market Vermont, it's the new one, made in Vermont, will be different.
Made new one, so they actually put their own made in Vermont on their products. So the, this is implications that we've already talked about. In addition, we also began to look at what are the assets and what are the gaps. And one of the areas of gaps were incubators, not enough support for innovation, and companies that want to innovate. And I think you would like to start a retail business, you'd like to have some advice and help, Small Business Development Corporation, all those kinds of things are going to be helpful. Have you talked to an SBDC, Small Business Development Corporation representative at all about what it takes to start a retail business?
Yes.
Okay, good. Another one has been, be careful about this word redevelopment. This is about coming up with a way for the, and this has come out of the experience with all the disasters that have occurred here. None of the towns have the resources in place nor the knowledge to do wide-scale planning and to redevelop infrastructure. If you have a brownfield, who has, you know, if you have a piece of property that's a brownfield, does any one town have the knowledge and expertise to deal with that? If you want to take over 6 historic buildings in a town and do something with them and, you know, understand how to get the historic tax credits, understand how to redevelop those properties. If you need to acquire, you know, 10 different properties that are in 6 different owners' hands and this kind of stuff, is there a need for a redevelopment capability that is region-wide? Right now in the project we're working on with about 11 counties, the new economic development organization we're creating actually has in it staff for a roving expert in these areas. And their whole job is to work with local towns from the regional level to help them put ordinance in place, help them learn how to acquire properties, finance this, put the various structures in place. Broadband and telecom was big. Workforce development, not having an effective workforce development system and not having an adequate workforce for, even though people don't have jobs and don't have enough work and are getting low wages, they don't have the skills that are needed for the jobs that are really coming. And then the whole post-VY planning. So, yes,
Over on the economic and community asset,
yes.
I don't know if, it feels like you're missing one, and I don't know if it really is one or not, but to me, I mean, except for people who are born, who are lucky enough to be born here or been here all their lives, you know, we've all come here from someplace else because it is beautiful.
Right.
And it is not someplace else. There is a sense of place.
Right.
It's small towns, it's safe, or, you know, it doesn't feel like.
So you're saying that one of the major assets is the fact that this area has a sense of place, it's safe, and that it's drawing people from all over outside of Vermont to come here and retire here and live here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's more than-
People,
it's more than
it's
outdoor
small
recreation.
communities.
It's more than outdoor recreation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Okay.
not young people.
Pardon?
According to this statistics, young people don't
Right.
necessarily agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
On the gap side, I see you have rail, but what about other forms of mass transportation? I know.
Such as bus
well,
services between
bus
towns.
services. I know there are
Has come out.
there is some capacity, but you know, upgrading that to something that's. I know places in Europe, rural areas in like Austria and Switzerland, they have a post bus system which runs every half hour, 15 minutes, and
Mhm.
they carry parcels and
Right.
mail, but also people at the same
It's
time.
called Coast Bus System, yeah.
They're constantly, you know.
Look at Dartmouth Coach. I mean, Dartmouth Coach runs to people in the Upper Valley will take that every time they go to New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
Boston.
Or Boston.
Right. Yeah, I know we had a number of bed and breakfast owners over in the Wilmington area talk about the fact that if you are a person that is a chambermaid at a bed and breakfast and you live in Brattleboro, you have to have a car and put gas in the car because there's no way to get to that. And you don't make enough money as a chambermaid, it's a part-time job to get there. So having some level of public transportation
There's also a capacity gap on the political side, it seems to me, which is missing.
Okay.
It's a fragmented political system, maybe that's the word, I'm not
Mhm.
sure, but as we've said this evening, it's hard to get people to cooperate and collaborate.
Right.
In
Okay.
this state.
We will capture that. That's come up a number of times. Okay, I'm gonna skip by this because we've been through this. This is taking this chart, and again, this is all available on the web, it's taking this chart and breaking it down. As we begin to look at the strategy, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas where we see some niche opportunities. There's some real strength in optics, real strength in medical devices, there's some strength in software and IT services. In terms of hospitality, retail, tourism, you have winter sports, fall foliage, arts and culture. There's the potential for vibrant downtown retail. I'm not sure it's all here yet, from what I see. A lot of assets in healthcare, especially in the mental health area. And so what we're looking at, the way this is going to work, is imagine these as clusters, and within those clusters, there are specific niche markets where you're leveraging off your core strengths, much like we're talking about in tourism today, mapping those assets within that cluster, and then going after the markets that those assets open up for you. That's the whole strategy, yes.
Back to Sharon's comment about farmers markets, is
Yeah.
there any place, is there a place for, and trees, for the agricultural, or the land, or, I don't know.
Not on this list right now,
Okay.
but there's nothing that says that we can't make the agriculture, forestry, and all the working lands a strategy. The problem right now is it's disaggregated, and there's not a lot of strength, okay, in it right now. We've got to figure out how to bring that together, yes.
I have to say, what really has impressed me is how all of the dairy farmers have figured out the value add, and now we've got these artisanal cheesemakers
Mhm.
all over the state. And just taking that raw material that you were talking about earlier and making it into something really
Yes. And that's,
wonderful
yep.
in terms of economic
And-
growth and better jobs and more jobs and
Now
exports.
if we could get the wine producers, which are also here, and the dairy farmers together and create wine and cheese packaging. Okay, we did that in Tasmania, Australia. And we also packaged up flowers, introduced everybody ever hear of Calyx and Corolla? Calyx and Corolla, yeah, okay, I buy flowers from them because they're fresh from the farm, from where they're produced. But Tasmania, Australia has some of the finest flower growing areas of the world. And they'd never heard of it. And now they ship all this product out of there by DHL to the world instead of trying to sell it at a commodity level locally. But they got great cheese, they've got great wine, and they're packaging all that stuff up into gift packages, which have higher value added sale opportunities. So it's again linking those assets together. So agriculture is an area that should be looked at.
You're absolutely
Okay.
right.
Based on all the individual assets that are here. Okay, the only thing I want to say about this is slide 61 in the deck. We've already talked about demographics, workforce, and quality of place. And one thing we didn't talk about was 63% of all jobs in the United States by 2018 will require more than a high school education with credentialing. Okay? We have a whole focus in this country on moving people to college, and we have a whole bunch of them dropping out. Unlike Europe and Canada, which has a whole focus on decisions are made about whether you're going the technical route or you're going the academic route. And technical work is considered a valuable occupation in those countries. Okay? As a result, in Germany, 33% of the German economy is on export, is based on export. Only 13% is here. Okay, so but we also aren't graduating enough engineers and scientists to do that. There's also a major trend of onshoring and nearshoring, bringing 5 million new manufacturing jobs back to this country. The U.S. manufacturing growth is being driven significantly by low cost of energy now because of a huge transformation of energy costs. Local foods. Food security is a major movement, and food security equals homeland security. So if you are really focused on what local foods can be, you can actually grow the local foods movement more than just people who want to have organic food. You can really move it towards a place where people want to shop and be part of a knowing where their food comes from and decreasing the potential. And one of the reasons we don't buy any meat anymore that is processed at a major manufacturing processing plant is we want to know the cow that it came from. You could have one diseased cow go into Iowa beef and infect millions of people's the beef that goes in his millions of people's shelves. So there are some real reasons why this is important. And then from the standpoint of healthcare, healthcare is going through, not just because of the Affordable Care Act, healthcare is going through major economic transformation because of the innovations in technology in healthcare. Much more miniaturization, and there are actual companies here in Windham County, Vermed is one of them, that are making little sensors when you go get your EKG, except in Vermont. No Vermont healthcare organization buys any Vermed technology. Yeah, it's a multi-million-dollar business doing business all over the country. Okay, so we've actually run into 3 different companies in different areas. One is a winery who say they do almost no business in Vermont because Vermonters don't buy the product, but they sell it other places. So I haven't got a clue what that's all about, but we ought to figure it out. But this is a major area of growth opportunity, not just in the delivery of healthcare, but actually in the development of new products, new technologies, new services that can be exported nationally and globally, that can be built right here, designed right here, that can be part of the local economy. So what I'd like to do now is move over to quality of place. And I'm going to do this fairly quick. There's been a major change in how people look at place. It used to be that people moved where jobs were. Now people choose to live where they want and work where they live. And so there's a lot more movement around this country. And when we look at quality of place, you'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 7 major categories that affect an economy, from human capital, social capital, all the way to healthy communities. But most economic development only focuses on physical capital, which is housing, transportation, town centers, and financial capital, the capital it takes to build those structures. Okay? Very few economic development strategies integrate environmental capital, cultural capital, healthy capital, social capital, and human capital. In a balanced approach, you have to. And what is unique about Vermont is these other categories. This is where the real strengths are. So you need to leverage those strengths and make that quality of place an asset. So what has happened over time is that we have this term called KBE. It's called knowledge-based enterprises. And KBE firms can be in agriculture. They can be in forest products. They can be in healthcare. They can be in food processing. You can have all kinds of knowledge-based approaches. Just think about the applications that are being developed for the iPad and any smart tablet related to any company, including people that sell food. Okay, that's a knowledge-based service in that particular industry. Those knowledge-based workers are where most of the employment opportunities, especially in higher wage jobs are. Those are the workers whose families choose to move where they want. So the region that figures out how to make their community a knowledge worker attractive community are going to be the ones that win. And in the United States, there's an organization called the American Institute of Architects. They have developed a set of 10 standards called livable community standards. And those standards you can develop your own livable community strategy in your town or in your region around those 10 standards, leveraging those, and we have those available here. I'm not going to spend any time on that one. Okay. Now there are, in terms of the elements of quality of place, you have, who was it that talked about a sense of place? Okay. Larry did it. Okay. Knowledge workers increasingly prefer urban to suburban neighborhoods and seem particularly drawn to areas that feature interesting older structures. That isn't quite true. People are moving in this country to either active urban lifestyle or active rural lifestyle. Okay? And so they'll make one of those two choices, but they don't want to be in suburbia any longer. And so the region that figures out, depending on whether you're a rural lifestyle, a small town lifestyle, or whether you're an urban active lifestyle, or you're near an urban active lifestyle area, but you provide the rural small town lifestyle, you can get the both, you can attract people to want both, if you're near enough to it. So people want balance. These people are highly mobile, and they want balanced economic opportunity and lifestyle. The labor market, they want a labor market that's thick. And what it means by being thick, it means they have lots of choices. And it also means, a thick labor market means it's attractive for trailing spouses. One of the biggest problems this area has is they've got a good job for one spouse, it doesn't have one for the other. And you're probably not going to get it if that happens. A place that has a blend of work and leisure, and active lifestyle, alternative arts and culture. They're particularly concerned about air and water quality, looking for creativity and innovation. Diversity is not simply an individual preference related to personal lifestyle, but a basic precondition for the creativity and innovation needed to build and sustain a successful high-tech region. So, interesting comment by the CEO of Chroma, that the presence of the artists in this region who have very disciplined work habits around the art that they do and the other work that they have makes them really good people to have come to work in a high-tech environment. They bring very creative approaches plus a discipline, which I would never have made that connection. And Chroma is always looking for those kinds of people to bring that creativity. Educational opportunities are critical because these people are lifelong learners.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones that I said, you have down in Brattleboro, but we don't have that
Right.
that lifelong education opportunity up here.
Okay. So, in the interest of getting to 8:30 correctly, which is 5 minutes. Quality of place, as I said, is one of the 3 core elements of a balanced approach. You have to, so we take a look at all, so let you see how you take a look at all these factors, so you now understand why it can actually work the way you talked about. As long as you take the time to look at all these quality of place factors, in fact, for somebody like Stratton, if the quality of place gets screwed up, your tourism business gets screwed up. So it's in your best interest that quality of place exists and be retained and be valued as an asset. It doesn't get valued as an asset unless it's part of a strategy. And then if it's not part of the strategy, then people just fight over it. And the biggest mistake regions make is they tell everybody what they don't want, but they don't figure out what they want. Okay, it's easy to complain and say no. It's a lot harder to say yes and figure out what you want. Okay, so what we're doing now, we're sitting here in, I believe it's now April. This March date, we got snowed out here, that's why we're here in April. This date here is moving to June. June 24th we'll be back. And we'll be back in this area, right?
Yes, back here.
Okay, back here, so if you want more people and different people that aren't here, think about the week of June 24th. We're going to be here. Okay, and we're going to bring back what we learned in these sessions, and we're going to seek more input. We're going to seek your input to say, do you think we heard you? And based on what we've heard, have we fed it back to you? And obviously some of this feedback is going to come from the other regions, so you're actually going to hear the combined feedback, not only what happened here, but what also came out of the other regions. And by the way, Wyatt is taping this. All of these sessions are going to be on the SeVEDS website. So you can actually go back and you want to tell somebody, if you really like what you heard tonight, you can refer somebody to the website and they can actually see what happened. Okay? And Wyatt is going to make sure that you don't have to go through 3 hours of, it's all gets divided up, right, Wyatt, or whatever?
Yeah, I think we're going to be breaking down in sections. We're also going to be posting the whole thing.
Right, okay. So we're right now in the discovery phase. After the June meeting, we're going to spend July, August, and by the way, the town hall meeting is now going to be October instead of September because of the snow out. And we're going to connect all this information together once we get past June. And all that information will then be put together in a comprehensive report and strategy. And the strategy will not just be a written document. It will also be in PowerPoint, so you can take it away and use it. You will have 30 days to comment on it. And then once the comments come in from the public, we will submit that report to the Economic Development Administration in November.
Frank, do you want to talk a minute about the projects?
Thank you. Within a SeDS report that we submit, we also submit in that report a list of infrastructure projects that are important to the region. Roads that need to be built, water systems, sewer systems, any number of projects, low-income housing, or affordable housing.
Could it also include ideas like the tourism portal?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. And those projects will go in a list, and they will go through a team that's going to, in June what we're going to do is introduce to you the process of selecting projects. You all submit those projects from your towns and your region into a team at SeVEDS. There'll be a published measurement system, a way in which we will evaluate all the projects to make sure they fit into the strategy and they meet the criteria that has been set forth that will give them high priority within the feds and at the state level. And then they will go into that strategy. So if there comes a time in the next 6 months, a year, that you want to act on one of those projects and it requires some level of federal funding assistance, if it's in that package, it will get a much higher priority than any other project because it will be in a SeDS. And that doesn't matter whether it's USDA funding it, whether it's providing funds, whether it be the EPA, whether it be Department of Commerce, whoever it might be. Those SeDS, being in the SeDS process is critical. So in June, then we would be bringing that out to you. And then so we have one more public meeting tomorrow. We have additional interview sessions tomorrow involving healthcare.
Healthcare, higher education, finance, insurance, and real estate, and workforce.
Okay, so we'll be doing individual interview, we're going to group interview sessions in addition to doing a session like this in Brownhill.
Yeah, we're tomorrow night, you're at.
Right, and so we've done this one in Londonderry, Wilmington this morning, and we were in Bellows Falls Tuesday morning, right?
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday, right. This is Wednesday. Feels like Friday already. First of all, has this been a productive use of your time this evening?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what'd you learn that you didn't know before you came in?
That somebody's working on some major problems.
Okay,
They're
okay.
trying to organize it. It's a
And you
real
need to be
challenge.
part of that, because it's not,
Oh, yeah.
everybody needs to be part of that.
It's a challenge.
Hopefully you walked away with something that you can use tomorrow, whether it be the swimming pool or whatever. I'm hoping there was information here that you find useful enough that you want to think about it. And if you have other thoughts that come to mind in the next couple of days, make sure you go to the SeVEDS website and go into, there's a way for you to enter information and ideas into that site and get it to Pat or get it to Laura Sevilla, who is running the SeVEDS project. Any other questions before we close or comments?
Just thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Okay, thank you all for coming and have a good evening and drive safely.